What's up, Brian?
How's it going?
I think there's a. I'm trying to get my handle on this Hangouts on Air interface, just to see if there's anything different we need to worry about here.
Gotcha.
On this.
So are we being recorded?
Should probably do that too. Hopefully we can get some other folks on here to talk about Drealty.
Yep.
I was just watching the PH Rets 2.0 video.
What was that, Sean?
I was just watching the PH Rets 2.0 video.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be something that we need to consider.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that one yet, but that's seems like a good idea.
Looks like John Freed's trying to join. He's having trouble showing him as a viewer. Let me send the. Let me find the link here. Invite. Trying to see if there's a way I can open this event up to other people. I shared the link with you. You were able to jump in, right, Brian?
Yeah, you just sent it to me. Maybe we need to post that link out. I'm not sure.
I just shared it, I think, with Google Plus is like a mystery to me. I'm not sure if I can actually like reply to his email or just trying to find a way to get him connected.
Yeah, well, I just saw that. It seems like that should enable anybody to join.
That the link I posted?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can do that with a non-inclined email.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing. I'm not sharing this or restricting this. It should just be a public thing. So.
Yeah, it let me join with my personal, or was about to.
Okay. I just sent him a direct invitation, so. I'm going to open up a Google Doc here. There we go. Hey, John. Oh, can't hear you, bud.
There we go.
Hey.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you all virtually here.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yeah, the link that you sent via chat works.
Okay.
Worked. The first link just sort of allowed me to
view it.
view it as a live stream.
Gotcha.
I don't know if there are other. I don't know how you would tell if there's other viewers or watchers that might be in the same boat.
I can see the list of people watching, and it's really just people from our team.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think we're missing anybody. But it's just a good chance just for us to touch base. And sorry, I'm coming off the flu last week, so I'm still
no problem.
So yeah, we were just having a brief chat about even thinking about what our goals would be for this call. But I feel like if we can focus on just sort of starting to define a little bit of a roadmap and requirements for the module and the Drupal 8 version, I think that would help.
Sure.
Everyone figure out how they might participate. I think there's a newer version of PHRETS, which is sort of the heart of the Drealty module. I don't think we're using. I think we're using the 1x version of PHRETS right now. So I think that's probably one of the first things on the roadmap is to discover what that does and make sure that it's compatible with Drupal 8. Sure it is. But just sort of discovering how that's going to fit into the module and kind of work out from there.
So I'm a real newcomer to any kind of Drupal development of modules and so forth. So I appreciate you guys even involving me in any capacity. I just want to try to help and move it along. As I mentioned somewhere, my wife is a real estate broker, and so I'd like to be able to help her with technology that this module could really help out with. I was wondering, maybe it might be just for my own benefit, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind giving just a little color commentary on the history of the module, like how did it get to version 3 and what has kind of kept it from going to sort of a production release, so to speak.
I'll give you my perspective on it, I guess. We started using the Drealty module for Drupal 6 projects some years ago. I'm not really sure how long ago that was. We found that the Drupal 6 version was not reliable. It was relatively buggy, and we just had trouble getting it to reliably synchronize data with the RETS servers that we were using. So that's when we started looking at participating in the project. At that point, Kamito, I think he was the owner of the project, and a couple of people from our staff started to, I believe, work at trying to fix some of the bugs with the Drupal 6 version. I'm not sure how much was accomplished there, or if anything, we were able to launch or deliver a couple of Drupal 6 sites, I think, with Drealty that functioned in an acceptable manner, but kind of limped along. I really honestly think because there were some real issues with the Drupal 6 version. So we had our first Drupal 7 version. I think probably came along in 2012, I want to say. And the project that's pictured on the module page there, what was Prudential Gala at the point in time, but now it's gotogala.com. We decided to leverage Drealty for that project and use that project as a sponsorship of the development of the Drupal 7 version of the module. And so I had one of my developers work down that line to develop something that would facilitate the data feeding of from the Rets feed in Drupal 7, and then facilitate some of the searching requirements that we had as well, so the views integration and such, to make sure that we could deliver the experience we were looking for at that point in time. It was one of the first early responsive real estate sites that we had put together. And then subsequent to that, we, if anything, on our side, we've just been kind of too busy doing our daily production work to polish or finish off an official release. And it's really been because I want to say it's hard for any one set of developers or developer to have access to enough Rets data feeds to reproduce bugs and fix those bugs, because those Rets data feed credentials aren't going to be shared typically. And I think there were certainly some programming deficiencies. The developer who worked on the GoToGala site really, I think, overcomplicated some of the work that we have since. I think Veronica Severn's one of our developers. We had her go back in, I think, late last year, sometime last year. We were working on a real estate project, and we added in the field mapping interface and fixed a number of just sort of bad programming practices that had been put in place to make the module just more reliable with the Drupal 7 version. And I think, if anything, once again, you could take that version that Veronica developed. I don't even know if it was released, but there's a certain amount of work that she did there, and it's just taking the time to release it, and that could be considered the 3x stable version from our perspective. I think we have a half dozen sites running on that version of the module, if not more, maybe 10, I'm not sure. And they run either through the cron process of updating them or Drush-based updates. They synchronize data successfully. The reports that are now in there to reconcile the data and manually trigger the process work successfully. The queuing, and just all of it works, at least for the Rets data feeds that we have access to, works well. There are some groups that have some larger data sets that they touch, and there's different strategies for dividing up those Drealty connections so that they deliver data in smaller groupings than just the whole all 40,000 listings in one synchronization. So I think that the current version effectively for us is a stable version. There's probably some small bugs that need to be fixed. That'd be great, but it's just hard to track them all down because we can't replicate them without access to that. Typically, without access to that real estate IDX, and I haven't had time to really worry about it at some level. There's just always, Comito was sort of the first. He kind of took it to a point, and then I think the guys from Blue Tent, I think it's Blue Tent Marketing out in Colorado, they've contributed a bit, but I honestly think, based on the last time we talked to them at DrupalCon Denver, maybe, or DrupalCon somewhere, I'm not sure where it was, DrupalCon Austin, I think it was. At DrupalCon Austin, they effectively had their own version of the Drealty module, I believe, off on GitHub, that they had forked and developed to work with some other theming systems that they wanted to work with some other technologies that they wanted to work with. And once again, we probably never followed up, or they didn't have time. They've never merged that work back in. And so there is something that's sitting out there. It may be a private repository that they have, because I'm not sure I know about it or not, but it's I know they've done some cool work with Drealty, and they've used it quite a bit.
That's great background. Thanks for sharing that. I don't really know what there is to be done to upgrade a 7x version module to an 8x version. I don't know if there's anybody who could speak to that, and how tightly coupled is the the existing code base with a 7x version. Because I was kind of, when I was thinking things through, it seems like there's sort of three things going on, and now maybe two, as I understand it. One is how do we advance it to an 8x version for those who are interested? And then there's separately the question of how do we advance it to the newest version of PHRETS. And what are you guys' take on that? Is the code tightly coupled? Can those be independent efforts, or is it all sort of one big monolith?
I mean, I would prefer it to be. My preference would be that there's sort of smaller chunks that we can work at separately somehow. I think I think the work of converting the module to Drupal 8 is not trivial, because of the Symfony change in Drupal 8. Just in general, the object-oriented PHP approach is just completely different from the new PHRETS modules developed that way. And Drupal 8 is developed that way. So I think it'll be sort of a completely different approach to the module. It won't be. There's probably some modules out there that are a little more straightforward than this one. I don't know, honestly. I was hoping to kind of use this meeting as a chance to even pay attention and look at the project and say, okay, what is it? What is there? I can't sit here and say, we're working on a couple of real estate projects right now, but we're not thinking about it from a Drupal 8 standpoint, because we've only done a couple Drupal 8 projects at this point, and I see a big challenge with Drealty in that I don't think the Solar search experiences I don't think those modules are Drupal 8 ready. I think we did some experimentation about a month ago with Solar Search API and had mixed experience. It's not developed enough yet, and to me, I don't think we'll build a real estate site with Drupal 8 until we know that Solar a Solar backend can be used for searching, faceted searching, and other types of experiences there, because the MySQL databases just aren't going to keep up, I don't think, for the types of real estate searching experiences that people expect.
Okay, that all makes sense to me. So we probably have a dependency on well, I mean, there aren't really that many modules that are ready for for version 8, or D8. So yeah, it makes sense. We'd have some dependencies like Solar. Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's a module dependency or if it's really just for us like a decision to build a site.
Yeah.
I think I think the first step is really just getting PHRETs in place and getting a connection established and getting data fed. If you can get data into Drupal from the RET service, that gets you to a point where some users of the module may find that is sufficient. Maybe they don't need Solar. Maybe they're not looking for they're looking to build their front end experiences in Drupal 8 in Angular, and they're just looking for a system to get the data. So I think that just getting to that point is probably the point we're talking about right now, and based on what I was seeing with the new PHRETs version, maybe that's easier than it is today because, as they were explaining, we used to have trouble. RET services were inconsistently implemented. So there's more standardization today than there was 5 years ago. And the PHRETs module is using Guzzle instead of curl for the data transactions, and that faster. Is more reliable and measurable. And so there's probably a lot of improvements there, but I really think that's really what the module does. It really just provides an interface for getting the data into Drupal somehow. And I think that's kind of been an argument from some users over time. I think there's somebody in the forums right now posting lots of questions like, why does Drealty create entities instead of nodes? Things like that. And there's the approach originally, or has been, that the module is more of a building tool for a developer to use to craft a website based around real estate data. It's not intended to be sort of a module that you drop in and it has a pre-canned search interface and certain taxonomies are pre-established for you, and it's not making those decisions for you. The goal of the module is to facilitate getting the data into the Drupal site, and then you can configure around it from there. That being said, most recently I had a broker in California that contacted me that wanted to make the module like a distribution that they could sell to other brokers. So everyone has their own kind of intent on how to use or what they want to use the module for. Right now, I still think the goal is effectively it's a PHRETs implementation for Drupal.
Let me ask this: if somebody was to go for a Drupal 8 version, I created a Drupal 8 branch out there, and I based it off the 7x code base. Mm-hmm. But does that even make any sense, or would it be better to sort of create a skeleton of a D8 module and then just sort of literally copy paste code into that skeleton in the places it makes sense, rather than trying to adjust the existing code? I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
I think it's
just from an approach perspective.
It's going to make a lot more sense to pseudocode the framework that you're looking for, and then pull. I don't think you're going to be able to pull a lot of direct code. I think that code's going to have to be rewritten in general, and that'll be the most sane way to to produce the module. Sort of deciding what that initial framework's going to be, what interfaces are going to exist, what functionality we're facilitating, and then filling in that framework. I think that's going to be the much better approach. But it's just hard to keep it coordinated. You're going to have folks contributing that have various levels of awareness of the project, and that's always the fun part of dealing with managing a Drupal or an open source project. I think there's a lot of people who have commit access to the module. I actually don't think I do. I think Brian and Veronica might. I'm not sure, but that's been a challenge in the past. There's been people who have participated who really just wanted to get their commit counts up, and it's just I think that's one of the reasons that like the Blue Tent guys took their code over to GitHub and just did it by themselves, because it just is a little annoying when you're trying to work on something and people have those various agendas. You know, like they're not willing to work with the team. They're kind of working independently, and that's probably one of the reasons nobody's stepped up and made a stable branch of this as well.
That makes sense. So if there was a, you know, I kind of agree with you, even though I don't really have the knowledge to stand on to really have any, for my opinion, to have any weight. But I kind of agree with you that it seems to make sense that it would be better to start with a skeleton of a D8 module and then plug things in rather than just try to piecemeal change what's there. So if that was the approach, who would probably be the one or two people, maybe the one person, to just say, okay, at a very 50,000 foot level, here's what that skeleton would look like. You know, here are the various areas of functions or objects, or, you know, I don't really know the PHP language and Drupal language to use. Is there one guy or one girl that could say that and just put something out there for other people to respond to?
It's tough. I don't know that there are any current committers. You know, like I know Veronica, if I asked her to help, she would certainly help. But her availability is tough, just with some of the work she currently has on her plate. And I don't, you know, I know Kevin Quillen has commented recently on a few forum posts, but he's commented specifically that he has no interest in kind of working on it because it's not in his ball of wax anymore. That's the tough part. I don't know. I don't really. I don't know if there's any current committers who are doing that. So on our team, we have interest. We have clients who use Drealty. We want to continue to leverage Drealty or Drupal as a real estate solution. We still sort of see that as part of our roadmap. So we do want to find that solution. I know that when Kevin worked for me, I mean, the reason he's a committer here is because he committed while he was being paid by me to do it. And my footprint is all over the module because I told him how I wanted certain things developed. And the same goes for Veronica. You know, the field mapping thing is because Veronica and I sat in meetings and decided what we wanted to do, and then she went and developed the work for us. So I feel like on our side, we could certainly have that same footprint on the module again, but we need to have some folks involved that want to like we don't want to be the only people. We don't want to be. It doesn't want to be like, oh, it's our module, it's Incline's module, that's the way it's done, and it's. I'm trying to figure that plan out as well. I guess.
That makes total sense. I've dabbled in a few open source initiatives over the years, but it's really just been at the periphery.
Yeah.
So I do not have any wisdom whatsoever to offer on effective leadership and how to avoid, you know, how to get something going, but avoid being the avoid being a barrier or whatever. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very awkward position. It's in the open. I don't know. We've contributed a few modules in the open source world. Kevin's departure from our company was very not cool, and it's been handled that way, and that's part of the reasons our contributions have kind of sort of dropped in the Drupal community since then, because as a company, it doesn't make sense to kind of contribute money and time and then have someone cut off access or walk away, and it just is very awkward. So it's hard for me as the president of Incline to say, okay, this is what I want to do with this module. I don't want it to be that. That's not the way open source should behave. It's a weird module because it is very commercial. It's a very commercial module. It's not like one of those, XML sitemap, that's great. It's not like one of those kind of like simple, fun, like make your website better kind of modules. Anything that surrounds real estate tends to be commercialized, and so I don't know. That's why I'm hoping to have this conversation. I was hoping some other people would join in that are contributors or participants with the Drealty module, just to kind of get a concept of where to go or what to do. There's a lot to get this module back on track, or at least to get it to a Drupal 8 version. There's documentation that's lacking. There's the module itself that needs to function and behave. There's support. There's a lot of people that ask for support for the module, that contact us directly or post stuff into the support forums. There's no real plan around that. In other open source modules, there is sort of office hours for the module, and there's a reasonable commitment made by one or two folks as this is my baby, I'm going to run it. I personally don't know that I can make that commitment to this module, and it's always misinterpreted if I participate, so it's awkward.
There's another gentleman, you started to say something of, looks like your name is Phil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was saying we should make a paid version, and then we can pay for developing it. We make it work awesome in Drupal 8.
Can't, so that's against the licensing terms of Drupal.
I know.
So.
But it doesn't exist.
Well, I'm not hooked into any. I'm really not hooked into any brokers or real estate offices or franchises, except for my wife. And so, really, my interest is more
my
about
wife, the franchise.
Yes, my interest is more about cutting costs for her, rather than trying to build something that I can sell, which is good and bad, I guess, for the benefit of this module. It means that I don't have any money or paid time to contribute. But I guess that could be good. But you mentioned, Sean, you mentioned that there might be some people out there or one guy out in California, you said, who might be willing to throw money at this. He would certainly have to understand that I don't think anything is. What's the soonest that something might be done? A year?
Yeah, that's the thing. Without the bounty on it, I know we invested 300 plus hours in the Drupal 7 version initially, and we probably have, as a company, invested 500 hours total. If I don't know if that, maybe more than that. I know the initial investment was hundreds of hours, and it's tough for us to make that commitment right now. We would like to see the Drealty thing come to fruition for Drupal 8, because I think there's a future there. I think it's a good thing. I think it would help a lot of people. We need to just keep the conversation going, kind of, and to try to explore how we have time to accomplish that. And normally that comes to us in the way of a client saying, hey, I would like I know we have one of our clients that uses Drealty that may redesign their website this year. And we look for those kind of opportunities as funding for us to contribute back to the Drupal community. There's nothing right now I can sit here and say that I I would say, a high quality lead for that opportunity. The person I talked to, in California, he was very much exploring his options. So I don't see it as real firm at this point. But I think in general, just having, if I was you for your wife, I would use Drupal 7 probably, not Drupal 8, because it's going to work, it's going to be reliable, and you're going to get the benefits of a lot of time that's been invested so far in getting that thing to work and successfully. But for Drupal 8, I think it's really just the module itself needs people to participate. It needs like regular monthly office hours or something just to talk and chat and move forward. And so far, all the developers that I'm aware of on the project have all really been developers because they were working on a project, and then after that project's over, it's sayonara.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Let me propose something, because I do have, maybe uniquely amongst all the people who are interested at the moment, I do have a lot of a technical background, and I have a very long-term interest. Very long-term. I mean, I would eventually like to get out of the other kind of technology work that I do and just have my wife be too rich and too proud to let me work anywhere else but for her. And maybe I can just tinker with tech stuff for her for long term, which would mean continuing to work in some sort of Drealty-like area. So that being said, I'm willing to help kind of keep things going, at least from setting up meetings and just kind of trying to summarize at any point in time, here's where we're at.
Yeah.
For what benefit it might be, and just say, okay, here's kind of what the next steps might be, and here are kind of the different areas that people could work on without stepping on each other's toes. I have no money to contribute whatsoever. Does that seem like that kind of role might be of any value? I would say that the first thing I would need, though, that I really don't know that I can contribute is the sort of skeleton that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That everything could be built off of. And even if it's just a drawing on a whiteboard, that would at least be something to start with.
Yeah, I mean, certainly just need to me, I think you would start by defining some of the user interfaces. Like, what is, I install the module, what do I see? And some of that can be transposed from what currently exists a bit, and I think that's something that we could help with, or I could help with at least. Since I don't have the ability to commit code to the module, I can at least help provide that guidance in knowing how developers have leveraged the module in the past and how it can work with Drupal 8. And then once if we just have sort of a goal over the next 4 to 6 weeks just to help define that skeleton a bit, it'll help us understand a little bit more about what is the initial goal that we need to have. I think that skeleton, but also understanding the new PHRETs, that's the other part. Somebody has to explore, what does PHRETs 2.0 mean, or 2x mean? What does it do? Because that's the engine. And if we can marry those two concepts up, we'll be able to provide a bit more of a roadmap. I think that's the goal. Just define a roadmap. How do we get from where we have nothing to where we have something? And then what are some possible improvements to that something that could occur that will make people's lives easier, better?
That sounds great to me. So just tactically, logistically, would it make sense for you? Would you be willing to just sort of I don't know, put together an outline of areas of functionality or user interfaces in whatever medium that you feel appropriate, whether it's just a email or maybe a Google Sheet or Google Doc or
Yeah, I mean, I can sketch the
or a picture of a whiteboard that you that you just whatever's easiest and fastest. Obviously, you're not getting paid for it right now, so
yeah, no, I mean, I can work at producing something. I don't know if we could maybe plan to have a free open conversation like this that could pull other folks in from the module on a regular basis, monthly basis or something, and just I think try to define that. I think that the Drupal 8 effort is one kind of bucket that you could help spearhead, and the other part of that is support. I mean, the biggest challenge I think in the module management is the issue queue. There's no leader there. Like, somebody has to own that kind of and say, oh, I know blah 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 could answer that question probably for you. I'll try to put in touch. Or, oh, by the way, we have office hours once a month. Come back and talk about your challenge because we need to see your RETS credentials, or we need to see your implementation in order to help you. We can't help you via the issue queue because it's just too difficult. Those are kind of the two: supporting Drupal 7 or previous versions of the module, and then trying to get Drupal 8 discovered and defined well enough to know what the roadmap is. I think if you had a roadmap and you showed a little bit of progress, you'd be surprised. There might be some other folks who would jump in and help. But that leadership just doesn't exist in this module, and I think that could be very valuable.
Who has so from sort of a tactical point of view, who has the access to change the front page for example of the module? So right now it gives an introduction to what it's about, offers the following functionality. Maybe we would just want to add some little blurb there. Hey, if you're interested in this module, join our hangout that's every month. Because I don't know how we would notify people of that. How we would get that message out.
Yeah, no, I mean, so there's a real estate Drupal group.
Okay.
Has has been a mechanism to communicate in the past, and then certainly making an edit to the front page of the module. I don't have access to that. I assume Brian does. Maybe Veronica. It's hard to say. I know Kevin did. He may still have access to that.
Typically, the project pages like that are owner-based, so it might just be the Comido, or however you pronounce that.
Comido.
But I'm sure that's something we could, that's a small request. If there's a group of people that are actively working on the project and doing good things, I can't imagine they wouldn't want to promote that.
Sure. Okay. So I'm kind of hearing that maybe we want to set up a routine, a routine meeting to maybe at least at first cover two big agenda items. Cover what's hot in the issue queues, and how could that, why should people care, and who could tackle it. That would be sort of one agenda item, perhaps, and then the other agenda item would be just sort of, hey, what can we do to advance functionality, not just solve bugs. Would a cadence be a good cadence? Be once a month, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks?
I think once a month would be good to start. I don't. I know for myself, it's hard. Maybe once every 3 weeks, but or it's hard for. There's a lot of things going on, so it's hard to do much else. In if it was any more often than once a month. Um, Brian, I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but
Yeah, I agree. At least to start off with, try to gauge how how many people are actually gonna join the next few meetings we have here, and if it's a scenario where we get a core group of people that want to put time and effort towards it, we could probably ramp up at that point.
Okay. Well, I'm willing to try to set that up and schedule it. I'll try to and by all means, if it seems like I might be, if I am stepping on your toes, or if it seems like I might step on someone's toes, being a relative newcomer, especially to the Drealty module, please don't hesitate to hey, say there might be a different way to go about that or whatever. So I'm willing to go ahead and try to solicit some interest for a second meeting. We'll call this one the first one. I'll send out some notes from this and maybe suggest some times for a month out from this. And then, Sean, do you think that sometime in the next 2 weeks or so you could just, like I said, just whiteboard and take a picture for all I care? I mean, anything's better than nothing.
yeah. No, I mean, I think I can get some time together to sketch. We use Sketch to kind of show interfaces, and I'm used to doing that, so I can probably put something together that would make sense to help. And it may not be the final thing, but it's just sort of a start, and we can develop and discuss from there. I will say that the DrupalCon is happening May 9th, 10th, 11th, something like that. Our team will be down in New Orleans for DrupalCon, at least for the first few days of DrupalCon. So if there are other Drealty folks, that's another chance for us to chat, possibly down there.
Sure.
And that's usually a good chance to accidentally bump into people and talk, but we'll see. We weren't planning to go down and talk Drealty, but we certainly can if we're going to be there.
Okay. Yeah, I won't be going unless I find a sponsor out of the blue.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Well, if you can get something within the next 2 or 3 weeks, then that would give people at least a week. Not that people ever do that, but it would potentially give people a week to sort of compose some reactions before meeting. But if it doesn't get done until the meeting and you present it then, or if you just whiteboard some things during the meeting, that'll work too. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, I want to have something we can talk about. I kind of have a concept of what I would think is important, but I think there's going to be some feedback that's needed. So, I do also want to just look at the PHRETS module a little bit further to make sure I'm not designing around something that isn't going to work. So,
okay.
But I think certainly before our next meeting, I'll have something, and we can. I guess the plan issue that's already in the system, we can keep that conversation going there. You can post your thoughts on things there.
That sounds good to me. The real estate group, I'm sure I could find it, but do any of you have a quick link to it so that I can save myself the effort of searching for it?
Yeah, here you go. Theoretically, here you go. Let me see. There's the link to that.
There we go. So I'll paste, or excuse me, I will post something out there as well. Okay. Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, it's not really my place to say thank you because that implies ownership, which I deny.
Yeah.
But thank you guys. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to have somebody to talk to about it aside from here at our own staff. But,
Right.
you know, hopefully we can just kind of get it to snowball a little bit, and we're trying to help in any way we can.
Great. I'm going to sign off. It's great talking to you guys, and nice to meet you.
Thank you, John.
Well, see ya.
See you, John.
Bye.
All right, boys. I need to head out, so I'll talk to you guys later on too.
Have fun, man.
Okay, bye.
See you guys.
Bye.